At the Orange County Community Foundation, we believe in transforming our community's heartfelt intention into greater impact for good. By helping donors find the causes they love, we strengthen our community. We lead the way with bold solutions, combining giving strategy and community intelligence. Leveraging our generous donors and passionate partners, we amplify the power of giving. Together, we are helping to build an Orange County where all have the opportunity to thrive. OCCF is a proud underwriter of community programming and OC World. OC World is made possible by the generous contributions of the Marisla Foundation, the Keith and Judy Swain Family Foundation, Orange County Community Foundation, the University of California, Irvine, Socorro and Ernesto Vasquez Family Foundation, Crevier Family Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gaddi Vasquez, guest host for OC World. The heart of air travel in Orange County is John Wayne Airport, owned and operated by the County of Orange. It is the only commercial service airport in the region, serving not just general aviation, but also commercial aircraft and private jets. With more than 11 million passengers passing through its terminals each year and approximately 130 commercial flights daily, John Wayne Airport has become a crucial hub for both travelers and businesses alike. And in 2023, it celebrated an impressive milestone, marking 100 years of flight in Orange County. But beyond those numbers, what role does the airport play in the region's economy, transportation issues, and community life? What are its latest initiatives and future plans? And what challenges lie ahead? Our guest today is Charlene Reynolds, appointed airport director in 2022. She is a person responsible for overseeing operations and shaping the airport's policies. With more than 20 years of experience in the airport industry here in Orange County, she has been leading efforts to improve efficiency, sustainability, and the all, and I mean all important, traveler experience. So I'm delighted to welcome the director of John Wayne Airport, Charlene Reynolds, to OC World. It's great to have you with us today, and I want to begin the conversation we're having today. And in terms of your trajectory, you have a very, very impressive career, experience, resume. Tell us a little bit about your journey in this very, very interesting and challenging industry.
So thank you so much for the question. I've been here since 2022, but this is not my first airport. Got my aviation experience at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. I have been a longtime City of Phoenix employee, but was very, very interested in aviation. And the opportunity came up to start a new division, and so I took a lateral transfer over to the aviation department and started my career there, overseeing contracts and procurement, and then had a promotional opportunity to become the assistant aviation director, overseeing their commercial development, finance, contracts and procurement, and what we call business and properties, which is the food, beverage, and retail. And then during the pandemic, had an opportunity to serve as the interim aviation services director for a period of time. And then after 31 years in public service, decided to retire. And then after I retired, and it was a very short period of time, maybe 30 days before my phone started ringing from people in the industry saying, you're too young to retire. There's other opportunities, and then landed a position as the Chief Commercial Officer for Houston Airport System, which encompasses not only Bush Intercontinental Airport, Hobby, and Ellington Spaceport. So oversaw all revenue generating operations for those airports. And then a year later, I was called by a recruiter saying that there was a wonderful opportunity in Orange County that they thought I would be perfect for. And so I threw my hat in the ring and was selected by the Orange County Board of Supervisors, and just been very, very delighted to serve here as the airport director.
Well, that's impressive because if I'm not mistaken, I think that what you just described just in Houston alone is probably significantly larger in terms of the ground operation and administrative operations that is Houston. And of course, Sky Harbor Airport is a very large airport that many of us transition through on a pretty regular basis. So in the big scheme of things, you were retired, you were thinking about, you know, the future, and you went to Houston. Got the call to Orange County. What attracted you to Orange County? What is it that drew you to this place?
Well, really, the opportunity and the challenges. This is a very beloved airport, but when I walked through the airport preparing for my interview, I kind of looked around the airport, and it's close to perfect, but how could I make it better? I saw a lot of opportunities to make this airport better. Like when I walked through, I was very saddened to see everything in retail said LA. This is Orange County. And so I really wanted to create that local sense of place, um, and make some changes to really enhance the guest experience. And so, therefore, the opportunity to put that stamp on the airport for me was one of the biggest attractions for me to come to Orange County. And then I had an opportunity to meet with the board. They were very gracious. And there again, the staff have been just fantastic.
So it's been a few years since you've had the opportunity to be at the helm of the airport. Yeah, I know some of your staff that serve at the airport that have been here for a while. And in the interest of full disclosure, I have to disclose that I happened to be on the Board of Supervisors when the initial terminal was built here, the modern era terminal, if you will, which of course has now been enlarged and additions added to the airport operation. So surprises? Anything surprise you when you got here? I mean, you've described some of the things that you saw as opportunities, but anything that surprised you, good, bad, or indifferent about the environment?
There were a few surprises, especially relative to the condition of some of the parts of the airport. The baggage handling system needs to be replaced. Want to upgrade the restrooms, and so I spent my first year working with not only JWA staff, airport staff, but Orange County Public Works to develop a capital improvement program where we will invest over the next 8 years about $750 million. Every day that number seems to grow. We started at $711 million. It's more than that, but really taking care of the building, because from an infrastructure perspective, everything within Terminal A and B is original to the building.
Right.
And so we have to function, of course, to provide that, excellent guest experience. And it's my job to make sure that this is a functioning building for years to come.
Well, it's interesting because I did a little research in preparation for this conversation, and I picked up on some comments that people, first of all, let me just say that on Google, 4.6 from those who posted, which is really amazing. It's remarkable. At a time, when in American air transit, people constantly register their concerns about inconvenience, delays, conditions of a terminal, seating. I mean, people seem to find things that they want to talk about, they want to convey as concerns. But here's some of the things that people said online about John Wayne Airport. TSA, which a lot of times doesn't get a lot of positive feedback. Helpful and quick. Bathrooms are clean. This is all about John Wayne Airport. Good places to eat. Small, but big enough. Clean, efficient, and easy to navigate. Staff is friendly and helpful. Easy access parking. Managed well. Kudos to you and your staff. It's a breeze. So, in a recent survey by J.D. Power, John Wayne Airport was given the #1 ranking in the United States of America in the large segment of airports, which I believe included 26,000 plus surveys. How did you get there? How do you engender this kind of feedback from the travelers who come through here for just a few minutes, maybe a couple of hours while they're delayed or waiting for a flight, but come away with these kinds of positive impressions. This is unusual. I don't think it's common amongst airports in this country.
Well, it's truly a partnership. So, relative to TSA, I actually meet with the regional director of TSA on a monthly basis, and we're always talking about the professionalism of their staff and how can we make it better. And so, my job is to work with all the partners, meeting with the managers who run the concessions, checking in with them, making sure their staff are contributing to the guest experience, meeting with the contractor who runs our parking operations. I know a lot of the ladies who work for Flagship who clean our restrooms. Very, very nice, always complimenting them on the great job that they do. And so my goal is to touch every aspect of the airport and work with our partners because it is a true partnership. So only together can we be recognized by JD Powers.
So you talked about a $750 million budget to improve many dimensions. I've looked at the list, and it's pretty impressive. And if you're successful, and I'm confident you will be, with those improvements and those modifications and alterations, how do you fund $750 million when you're trying to manage an airport where you have inherent costs that are already embedded in the day-to-day operation? How do you get to $750 million?
And so an airport within itself is a self-sustaining business enterprise. And so we will utilize some of our reserves. We just paid off all of our debt related to the expansion of the airport years ago for Terminal C, so we're debt free.
Wow.
We've also been very, very successful in getting some grant funding from FAA. So this year alone, we were awarded $30 million, which we're going to utilize to upgrade our escalators and also our restrooms. And then two, we're thoughtful about the $4.50 passenger ticket fee that is charged to every customer coming through the airport to utilize that fund within the airport footprint to, again, maintain the airport and make improvements.
Are you confident that you can fund that $750 million within the existing framework of revenues without having to assess additional fees on the traveler?
We're hopeful. We've seen a lot of escalation in costs over the last couple years. And so we know certainly the first few years of that program that we can fund it through existing revenues. We may have to go out for bonds in the future, but we will be able to fund a great portion of it just through the existing revenues that we have today. So we have come up with a plan of finance, and right now we're doing well.
Let me drill down just a little bit on some of the conveniences or some of the things that have to be maintained in the airport. Obviously, with millions, literally 11 plus million travelers coming through Orange County Airport, a lot of wear and tear on hallways, corridors, seats, and things of that sort. But you've also got maintenance issues you have to tend to, right, on the runways and the facilities that the airline industry uses to come in and out of John Wayne Airport. Can you provide some light on that?
Oh, absolutely. So coming up in 2025, we will embark on what we call a taxiway realignment program. And that is probably about a $90 million spend. And that's purely for safety. And so we want to not only take care of the inside of the building, but safety is the number one issue for us. So we want to make sure that every plane that takes off and lands here is done safely. And so we're addressing those issues, and those are some of our first priorities and our first spend relative to our capital improvement program.
So switching gears a little bit to the other side of the runway, general aviation. I'm always fascinated when I'm here at the airport and the jets are either taxiing out or coming in and taxiing, and just seeing the sea of private aircraft on both sides of the runway. Tell us a little bit about that profile. What kind of quantities or volume are we talking about when we talk about John Wayne Airport as a general aviation airport and the private holdings that people have of some amazing aircraft not far from where we're sitting right now?
Oh, absolutely. So, general aviation, that's where John Wayne actually started, through general aviation. So, we have some great partners across the campus, but general aviation actually constitutes 60% of the operations.
Hmm.
Commercial is 40%. And so, that's much different than we see at other airports, specifically Phoenix and Houston. They typically will have just an airport to support general aviation, but we have so many different operations here. Um, it is a great community. I know a lot of the small pilots. We have some wonderful and very nice looking jets that I'm very, very impressed with. But our partners at Clay Lacy, Jay's, ACI, they're investing over $250 million within the next 10 years to upgrade their facilities. So collectively, with the investment here by the airport and their investment, we will have over $1 billion of investment across the airport campus. And that is the largest single investment in the history of this airport and will truly transform the airport in the next 10 years.
And how do you balance when you say 60% is general aviation? What are the challenges of the operational side of that general aviation as I'm watching a private aircraft land and a big aircraft taking off here or moving toward the runway? How do you strike that balance to be able to manage the volume that you're talking about when it's six? I think most viewers and people who travel here would be surprised that it's that kind of volume. How do you manage, how do you balance all of that?
And so I can't take a lot of credit for that. The tower takes credit for that. It is extraordinary people who work in the tower. I've had an opportunity to be up there and see what they do, but to manage the traffic in the California airspace, which is one of the busiest airspaces to manage in the United States, because not only do you have John Wayne, you have Long Beach and Burbank and LAX, and so the staff there, they do an excellent job of managing the timing of the takeoff and the landing here. And I can't say enough about their contributions in keeping us all safe in a very, very busy airspace.
So early in the interview, you talked about your first observations when you arrived here and the sense that it was important for the airport to evolve into a place where Orange County is on exhibit to some degree. And I'm going to dwell on that a little bit. So in a perfect world, if everything works out, all the financing, all the transformation that we've talked about, what kind of a corridor do you want to create for the traveler who comes through here? What do you want them to see? What do you want them to feel? What is the experience of travel? Because I don't think there's any doubt that traveling these days in aviation can be a little bit stressful, complicated, flight delays, flight cancellations, lost baggage, all kinds of things. But part of the experience is how you feel about the terminal experience, as was alluded to earlier in our talk about how favorable people rated TSA and the friendliness and the staff and so forth. But you talked a little bit about people feeling like this is Orange County and that some of the enterprises and whatnot need to reflect Orange County. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What would that look like in years to come if you're able to realize the vision that you have for John Wayne Airport?
So absolutely, when I walked down the corridor, I had a vision in my mind, and I thought Orange County, sea, sand, sun. And as I walked through, I didn't necessarily see that within the airport. And so we will be installing one, like a children's play area. That's something we don't have. And that was something I was very, very passionate about as an amenity. And so it will have a sea and sun kind of thing to it. We have a great new curator for our art program. And Heather has done a phenomenal job of transforming our public art display. And so making those little changes, and then once we have our new concession program with a lot of local brands, it'll all come together collectively. When people walk through the door, they will say, now our airport looks like Orange County.
And does that include the vision that you have? I know you, in some of the listings I've seen, what about our baggage handling process, the carousels and whatnot? Are we a little bit behind the ball on that, or do we need to pick up speed on that front?
Yeah, so we're a little behind on our technology. I'm working with our staff. We will basically retain a designer to come up with a new baggage handling system, because the future is basically self drop off. And we want to have that new technology incorporated into the airport. So, one, we have to work with our airline partners to understand what baggage looks like in the future for them. We also have to work with TSA because they have to scan the bags once they go into the system. And so, if we're going to invest about $100 million in a new baggage handling system, I want to make sure that we have the newest technology and it serves us for at least 20 years.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. And on that note, are the airlines in any way required to deliver bags to the carousel, to the passengers within a certain time frame? Is there any monitoring, any surveys that are done to assess how airlines are performing on the delivery of bags from unloading to the carousel in airports?
So right now we have a 30-year-old system. It functions well, but can we do much better? We want to get the report so we can manage bags quicker. I travel throughout the airport many times, and I travel to other airports with newer technology, and I notice a difference between the time I wait for my bags here and at other airports. So there again, we're going to address that in the next few years.
And you have a piano
Yes,
in
we do.
one of the main areas of the airport, and I think it's open for folks to sit down and play the keyboard.
Oh, absolutely. So that's part of the guest engagement. And sometimes I walk through and there are phenomenal guests who are in here playing the piano. And it just, it just does something for the atmosphere of the airport. And so once we convert our food and beverage program, we will be expanding our music program as well.
I can't speak to the director of the airport without asking about AirPause. Very intriguing. What is that all about?
So AirPause is a program. It can be very stressful to, travel through the airport. And so who can say no to a cute puppy? And so you have the opportunity to stop and play with the dogs that we have here. They're all volunteers within the airport space, and it's just another part of the guest engagement. I'm a dog lover myself, always had a dog, and so I enjoy spending time with them and rubbing on the dogs, but I get a great sense of joy when I see our youngest travelers really enjoying the program as well.
And shifting gears in terms of talking a little bit about governance, the Board of Supervisors has obviously oversight of approving the budget and management leadership, naming the director of the airport. You also have an airport commission, who are appointed by the board, I think,
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken. What is their role? What role do they play in the big scheme of things?
So our commissioners, they have an advisory role to the airport, but when we want to take an initiative to the board, they're kind of our first check-in. And so any major initiatives, they get to hear them and see them first, give us some feedback, and then they also advise the board offices for which they're appointed, whether or not that's something that the airport should be doing or not. And so we really respect their input into the process.
And shifting gears again, because there are so many topics that one can cover in a conversation about the airport, and you can't talk about an airport without talking about noise. And there was a settlement agreement that, when I was on the Board of Supervisors, was negotiated with our neighbors in terms of noise abatement and things of that sort. I know that that has been amended, adjusted, revisited several times, but I think you're coming up on a key time in 2030, if I'm not mistaken, with regard to that settlement agreement. Can you cast some light on how you see that going forward? And I would inject here that I believe that the technology of airport noise has been abated or helped by changes in technology of aircraft, as I recall. I remember the days of the whisper jet, is what they called it, when it was a new technology that lowered the volume on jet aircraft noise. Where are we on that? What does the future look like in that regard?
So you're absolutely correct. The current iteration of the settlement agreement expires in 2030. And so probably the latter part of 2026, myself representing the county and the three parties to the settlement agreement, the City of Newport Beach Airport Working Group and Still Protecting Our Newport, will be sitting and deciding what the next 10 to 15 years of the settlement agreement looks like. So one major component of that is the technology of the aircraft. It has gotten quieter. Right now, we have about 33% of that newer technology operating from the airport. It has gone up since I arrived from 16 to 30%, but can we do better? So my job is to work with the airlines. One, really getting them to be a good neighbor, look at their network planning to place more of that newer aircraft. But we've had challenges with Boeing, of course, and their delivery and certification of the aircraft, and just really to be a good neighbor and make this airport as quiet as possible. So we will be having a lot of discussions relative to the new technology and also the future of the MAP cap. Right now, we're capped at 11.8 million passengers for the airport. And you go out to various communities throughout Orange County, they want to see that number grow. But what does that look like? We'll have to discuss that.
Well, Charlene, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your leadership here at John Wayne Airport. You certainly have offered some great information, insight, and perspective on what we can anticipate the traveling experience in and out of John Wayne Airport. Thank you for your leadership. And I'm Gaddi Vasquez, and thank you for joining us on OC World.